Hello! We are going back to the Plan Ahead album, and I've taken out one of the page protectors that you saw me pack up. So I have a sketch, I have the photos to go with that sketch, and I have the supplies that I picked out to follow along. And then my page protector to get it right into my album as soon as I'm done. Just gonna pop that behind me. So this is a page map sketch, and it is linked on that Pinterest board, so you can find all of the sketches that I use in the class. You'll find either in the PDFs themselves, if they're ones that I've created for the class, or you'll find them on that Pinterest board that I'm adding to throughout the month. Okay, and then this was a sketch for two 4x3 photos, but I'm going to use 4x6 photos, which means my finished ratio of the page is not going to look exactly like this, but I thought I could still be able to follow where they've put the different layers of paper, and that's what I'm going to go for. And remember, I was going to swap the hearts for some cameras. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pop that there and choose my papers. Well, I know that my background is going to be the craft cardstock. And then I have my purple and green color scheme and a little bit of pink and this little bit of wood grain and neutral. And I have my cameras to cut apart for embellishment later. So I'm just going to pop those over to the side and figure out with these photos. One, do I want the close-up shot, the top or the bottom? I think that way. I think either could work. But for whatever reason, I'm drawn to this version. Am I? If I put it at the bottom, does it make more sense because the grass is at the bottom? So you see this and then you get closer and you see that. Okay, so even though the lavender is over here and not right here, I think that actually makes more sense. Okay, that's as much as I'm going to think about that. That's the way it's going to go. And then I need one pattern paper that's going to be a pennant behind there, and then another one that's a square. So which one's going to go where? Here's my plan. The purple is going to go in the back, and then the green as the pennant, and this paler one is going to be a mat around the photos and some of the lighter accents as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. I think that means that this one needs to be, I'm going to say about an 8x8 square, because obviously I want to make everything here a little bit bigger. And then the green pennant. Pennant's going to need to be wider than 8 inches. Let's start with 8 for this box and see what that does. It's always easier to go back and make things smaller than to go and piece them together to make them bigger. Let's try 4 inches of this chevron green. And maybe 10 inches in total, take 2 off. Probably could have taken more off, or taken less off there. Because I could have taken off less, I'm going to do this end quite shallow rather than bring it all the way in here. I'm just going to do a little bit there. So with pennants, with a wider piece like this, instead of eyeballing the middle, I'm just going to fold it in half to get that middle point. Cut a straight line up to where I want the center to stop, and then I can just line up the blade of my scissor from the corner, and that should get me pretty much what I need. And the photos, each matted on here. Because there's overlap, I'm going to go ahead and map them individually, even though I quite often would put them both on one photo mat, but the whole reason that I use sketches is to break, especially sketches from other artists, is to break free from my own habits so that I get a little variety just by way of following directions. So this is a good time to ignore the fact that I would normally do it a little differently, because it's only a little bit. It just makes sense to have a little variety by following somebody else's tips every once in a while. Okay. How are we doing there? This one's going to go up there, and this one's going to go down here. And I really should have made the purple box bigger. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it so it isn't actually a square anymore. I'm going to separate these two just a little bit. I am going to do some layering that goes underneath, so I want to make sure that I don't put my adhesive all the way to the edge. But I'm just going to give this a little bit more height. Not that much. More like that much. And across the middle. So where I just cut the paper is not going to show. And again, these are going to have things that are layered underneath them, so I don't want to cut away I don't want the adhesive to be too far, but I like this better with the frame of purple at the bottom, so that makes me happier. Okay. So if I am going to adapt a sketch like this, I do try to just start with one thing I'm going to change. So in this particular example, it was I'm going to change the size of the photos, and then I let all the other changes just happen from there. So I wasn't originally going to look at that box and say I need to make it bigger. I made it about the size that it is on the sketch, and when that didn't work, then I made it a little bigger. That's the sort of way that I find useful if you want to follow a sketch but not have it exactly, or you want to follow a sketch but it's not exact to your needs. And rather than try to reinvent the whole thing at once or anything like that, I just feel like if I can just have one big difference to start with, all the other things will just naturally fall from there, rather than me looking at the sketch and trying to create something entirely different, because that then defeats the point of having the sketch in my mind. Okay. So here's my box that's down there. I need to choose my cameras, get them cut out. And obviously my space down here that was bigger in this sketch is small, so I might adapt and have the title and journaling in a different place, but we'll see how everything balances. Just looking at what's here and thinking if I want 3 that are the same or 3 that are slightly different. I think I'll go with this. 1, 2, 3 that are the design is the same, but the size is different. In fact, I could do small, medium, large. That might help since I'm running out of room in some places. So I'll do the same camera in 3 sizes, and I'll just cut these out with my scissors. 3 cameras, big, medium, small, and I'm going to go in this order, I think. The biggest embellishment cluster up here with the big camera, a medium-sized bit over here, and the small one over here. I think if I were true to the sketch, it would be this way around, but I would have more room over here. So I'm going to swap those. I'm also thinking that this space would give me more room for my title, and I can write smaller for the journaling than I can make the title smaller. So I think I'll swap the placement for the journaling and the title. So I'm going to run the title over here and the journaling over here. And all of that is coming from one decision at the beginning, rather than having completely separate decisions all planned out along the way. I can just make that one change at the beginning and then follow that change throughout the process. Okay, this grouping up here with some circles behind the camera, I'm thinking I will go ahead and have a circle, but I also thought this could be a good place for me to bring in that same pattern that paper that's at the bottom, but instead of cutting it into a circle, cut it into a globe with a die. So that will fit up here, and I'll layer the camera and this photo and everything over the top, but then I'll also need another circle from a contrasting element. So I need to look at my B-sides here and maybe this pink, and I think maybe if I do the pink up here at the top and then the wood grain, that might work, and then I don't need to bring in any paper outside of my kit. That's what I'm really trying to do, is not bring in anything outside the kit other than tools. I've brought in my die here, and to be honest, if I were scrapbooking away from home and I didn't bring my die collection, I would just use 2 circles and not think about it. But because I knew that this die was sitting 6 inches from where I was standing, I might as well go ahead and use it. And I'm totally okay with making changes like that depending on the circumstance of when I make a layout anytime, because I can always put that globe on another page another day. Time to see how that works. So I'm going to go with light pink up here, and in the photo it's directly, in the sketch it's directly behind the photo, but because that's the same paper, then I'm going to separate it and put it behind that background layer. And then the globe, and I want to basically leave enough that you can tell that that's what it is. That works. And then put that over the join, but I think with some foam squares. Okay, then if I follow the sketch, this one would be all the way down to the bottom. I think I'm going to pop it up a little bit, and I'm just looking here if I want it in all the way inside this journaling box or over the edge, and I think over the edge. And the heart on the original sketch does go over the edge as well. I'm going to pop that there. This looks a bit empty and not at all like a cluster at the moment, but the title is going to go here, and I think this little label sticker I will keep in. And then I have this over here, which I thought could become my journaling. So, which pattern papers do I want to bring back? Well, I think bring back that pink again, but in a smaller circle. And if I bring this one back, I want to put it up high rather than down lower, so that I don't want it to be completely parallel to the one that's already there. Two sizes of circle punch, or I could do this with a set of circle dies. I just happen to have these easy to get to. So I said this one would need to come down further, so it would be parallel to the wood grain, and then repeating the wood grain would move this up a little bit. Now, if I stay with where the heart is in the sketch, then that's over there, or I can move it over here. But then if I move it over there, then I think the journaling has to fit in this empty space rather than on the circle. I think if I put the camera over here, then I can journal on the circle. So I'm going to try it over there. turn this over to take off this excess so I don't, normally well, quite often I leave those bits until the very end of the layout, but with journaling I don't want to accidentally write over the edge. So, okay, and a label down here. Wow. This can be quite sweet tucked under here, but does that now make that star look so obviously upside down that it's not? So maybe what I'm seeing here is that I should have paid more attention to the labels rather than just picking up the first one that I grabbed that had some green in it. Not the end of the world, but maybe by the time the layout's done I'll put something over the top of that star. Okay, just looking back to my sketch, this sketch is finished with stitching details. I think I'm going to finish it with mist rather than stitching. So we'll see how that goes in a minute, but I think I better get my title and my journaling on before I add anything else, be it mist or other embellishment. So I've got two kinds of letter stickers. And let's see what I can do. I'm just going to be brave. This may not fit. I may not be able to spell it. I think I've got enough letters. It's okay. But quite often with titles, I just jump in and then I have to pull it all up sometimes. That's okay. It works. Oh, see, this is why I just jump in, because look, it fits so beautifully, and I didn't even have to work for it. That's just nice. Okay, part 2. And my journaling over here. I'm going to try replicating the stitch lines in the sketch with my 2 or possibly 3 shades of mist. So I'm starting with this one, which is, keep in mind I've been working on this album for a long time, so these colors are older collections. So this is Vanilla Breeze from Tattered Angels. I'm not sure I love this already. Hoping it lightens up a little bit. I think I should have used a different brush. Or just paid more attention. It's okay. It's going to be alright. I'm a little over here. See, that's better. I should have just paid more attention. And then there's some stitching at this top group. Instead of going around, I think I'm going to try and stick to this similar type line. Okay. So that's Vanilla Breeze, which I chose originally because I thought it was quite close to Craft, but it had a bit of a coppery metallic added to it. The copper seems to have intensified over time. And then I'm going to mix a bit of gold, and I think I'm going to top it with a little bit of white too. Okay, I've decided I'm not going to brush the gold, I'm just going to do droplets in this gold. Okay, there. It takes forever for me to get it open these days. Yep, that'll do. This one I'll cover up the photo. And then I'm going to get some white and do some droplets in white too, because I did that throughout this book. And I'm keeping this in. I'm actually walking across the room to get the white mist now, so you see how long it takes me in my workflow to do this. There we go. So I'm back. When I started this album, white mist was kind of a big deal. And it's a very imperfect supply because it tends to transfer to the page protector. It can mix and give you these kind of little puddles. But the more I used it and the less perfect it was, the more I kind of liked it. So, okay. And then I think the only thing that's really missing, well, I didn't do this kind of decorative edge, but I did the mist there. I'm going to count that as done. I'm not going to put staples here, but I would like to maybe have something that covers that up, and these enamel dots are indeed big enough for that. So why don't I just use the green enamel dots as my finishing touch. And I wondered about finding, yeah, I think I'll be able to fit one in each of the cameras. So it kind of dresses up the embellishments because the embellishment here is very simple. That makes it a little bit, you know, a little different. And then just dot some small ones around. Put that on the edge there. Maybe, I need the date up here, and that will help this mix with this. I feel like the journaling is such an afterthought over here in the corner, and I want this group to mix a bit better with this group. So I think if I get my handwriting up here to include the date, which I need to look up, I probably should have done that when I put my photos in my album, because the dates are all there with the pictures. And I did not. So there you go. Going forward, I should probably do that. And I'm a little concerned that this line seems so detached. I wonder, okay, this is not on the sketch, but here's my final thing where I think maybe I can pull it together. I'm going to put writing up here to bring that in with this, and then I'm going to choose a phrase stamp, and I'm going to stamp the phrase stamp up here, over here, and a little bit on this line, in hopes that that will then bring this bit in and we'll all feel a little better. Looking at this now, I followed the sketch, and this happens. I follow the sketch and sometimes I go, that's not how I would have done it if it wasn't the sketch. If I if you ignored this part of the page, and I have this and this, I feel like I needed the line of mist here on the horizontal and not that big long vertical. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have tried. So now I do. And now you've seen me do it here, so you can make that decision. If you want to use this sketch but you're not loving that line, there you go. You know that another place it could go is right here, and that might feel better for you. So you can learn from my mistake and not, well, it's not a mistake, but learn from my experience and make that decision a little bit more informed than I did. Okay, so phrase stamp, and I need the date for the photos. Here we go, date there with the same pen that I did the journaling. I've got phrase stamp turned to go somewhere lovely. And I'm going to do a few that are stamped really clearly. And then just stamp off the extra color for a little softer look. And I want to go up above this as well. And then just stamping. Really not too concerned if this goes off the left-hand edge of the page there. I just want something that brings it in a little bit. And then I think I had just a couple more enamel dots left. So I can do maybe the center of this little circle in the pattern paper there. And the same up here. Now I've got 3 there that kind of bring that in. 3 here. And 1 here that's going to go off the edge of the page. And you can cut enamel dots. You can just do it with scissors that have a bit of oomph to them. She says. Okay, I've done it in the past, and this one is quite strong. There, I got it. Okay. Okay, looking at that and wondering if I want anything else. I have stayed within what's in my kit aside from tools like the stamp, the mist, and the punches. I haven't gone and added any more stickers or anything like that. The only thing I'm thinking is that, remember I put this circle up higher than it was meant to be because I didn't have the right shape. Or, I'm sorry, I didn't have a different pattern. And then I used this label down here because I didn't have any other that was the right shape. Sorry, all my thoughts were going together there. I think this might help. And then I could just, I know this other half is not on the sketch, but I think it would help to have a little bit there. And maybe there you go. I'm just going to leave it like that. I feel that that pulls this in a little bit. And there we go. You can see exactly how quick I'm able to work with the page kit made and the photos and the sketch already put together. So much quicker, and you've seen hardly anything taken out in this video. Pretty much the only thing I've edited out is the time that it took me to cut out these 3 little cameras. And they're pretty simple shapes, so that wasn't very long at all. So there you go. I hope you will take this process forward and see how this sort of thing works for you. If you see benefit in going at this pace and breaking up the planning and things like that, or if actually you prefer one of the other methods of putting your page together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.